The headlights sliced through the Tennessee night. Then the bus braked hard. Inside, Elvis stood, looking out the window. On the roadside, a young girl clutched a cardboard sign, tears streaking her face. Witnesses say he whispered one word to the driver: "Stop. If you believe one act of kindness can change a life forever, stay with me, because this night, in the mid-70s, proves why Elvis wasn't just the king on stage." The low hum of an 18,000-seat crowd leaks through the cinder-block walls, like a distant engine waiting to roar. It's late summer 1976, a Friday night in the Midwest. Outside, the air is heavy, still clinging to the heat of the day. Inside, the backstage corridor smells faintly of coffee, hairspray, and the ozone tang from stage lights warming up. Elvis stands near a folding table, adjusting the collar of his white jumpsuit, the gold embroidery catching in the harsh fluorescent overheads. A stagehand checks his mic pack. Another leans in, speaking low. "We've got someone here who, well, you should meet." Through the doorway comes a small figure, 7 years old, baseball cap pulled low, clutching a cardboard sign in block letters: "Sing with me, Elvis." The boy's foster parents hover a few steps behind. Their eyes say more than their words. They've brought him here for a reason. One of them explains, just above a whisper, that the boy has been through more in the last 2 years than most adults could bear. Elvis listens, not nodding mechanically, but really listening. His posture changes. The noise from the crowd fades, replaced by the rhythmic clink of a belt buckle as he shifts his stance. He lowers himself onto one knee so his eyes are level with the boy's. "You like Love Me Tender?" The boy doesn't answer right away, just bites his lip and nods, barely breathing. Elvis's smile is quick but warm. "Stay close tonight." From the wings, the first faint rumble of the band warming up drifts in a bass line pulsing through the floor. The stage manager calls out, 2 minutes, E. A roadie ducks past with an armful of scarves. The scent of the starch and fabric. Softener trails after him. The boy's grip on his sign tightens. Elvis gives a quick wink, then straightens, stretching his shoulders like a man about to step into a fight he's trained for his whole life. The house lights drop. The crowd erupts, a rolling wave of sound that hits the walls like surf. Elvis walks toward the stage entrance, the glow from the wings lighting one side of his face. He's almost through the curtain when he stops, turns, looks back at the boy, still standing there, cap brim shadowing his eyes. One slow nod, then he steps forward into the blinding light. The music hits full force, but the look he gave that boy says the night isn't going to unfold the way anyone expects. The first chord explodes from the amps like a starting gun. Elvis bursts into CC Rider, hips snapping, knees bending. The sequins on his suit scattering light across the crowd. The arena sways with him, a living, breathing tide of 18,000 voices. From the shadows at side stage, the boy clutches his cardboard sign. The brim of his baseball cap shakes slightly, either from nerves or the deep thump of the bass coming up through the floor. Halfway through the second song, Elvis glances sideways. Just a flick of the eyes, but enough. The boy notices. His breath catches. Song after song flows, sweat darkening the back of Elvis's collar. The crowd is deafening, but somehow his attention keeps finding the small figure in the wings. Then the opening chords of Love Me Tender drift from the guitars. Softer, slower, like a curtain falling over the room. People hush instinctively. Elvis starts the first verse, his voice low, warm, almost conversational. But 2 lines in, he stops, raises his left hand. The band falls silent. The echo of the last note hangs in the air like smoke. Murmurs ripple through the arena. You can almost hear the confusion. Is something wrong? Elvis walks forward to the very edge of the stage. His boots click softly on the wood. The spotlight follows him, throwing a white circle across the front row. He points directly at the boy, gasps, whispers. Someone in the front leans to their friend. Who's that kid? A stagehand gives the boy a gentle nudge toward the stairs. He moves stiffly, like in a dream. His knees are trembling. At the top step, a hand reaches down, heavy rings glinting under the lights. Elvis's grip is firm, steady, pulling him up beside him. The boy is blinking against the glare, the scarf of the nearest fan brushing his elbow. Elvis leans down, close enough that only the first few rows can hear. Sing with me, son. The crowd roars its approval. Somewhere in the rafters, a camera flash pops. Elvis adjusts the microphone stand, lowering it so it's level with the boy's mouth. The band waits, instruments poised, the silence building pressure in the room. The boy swallows, glances up at the man towering over him, then back at the endless sea of faces, and for a moment, the whole arena feels like it's holding its breath. Elvis nods once to the band. The first soft chords return, and the boy opens his mouth to sing. The first sound is barely a note, more like a breath with music clinging to it. Elvis leans down, the fringe of his sleeve brushing the boy's shoulder, and sings the opening line himself. Love me, tender. The boy tries again. This time, a thin ribbon of melody escapes, fragile but true. Elvis lowers his mic to match the boy's height. His voice softens, letting the child's tone carry through. The crowd begins leaning forward, as if proximity might help them catch every word. 2 lines in something shifts. The boy's voice grows steadier, less a whisper, more a statement. His grip on the microphone tightens. Elvis nods, just enough for the boy to see, and they sing together, harmony warming the edges of the song. The band joins in quietly, filling the arena with a cushion of sound. A few front row fans are already wiping tears from their cheeks. One woman clasps her hands under her chin, swaying gently. A flashbulb pops, then another. Somewhere high in the stands, a man lowers his 35mm camera, shakes his head, and mutters, "Nobody's gonna believe this." Elvis never takes his eyes off the boy. When the child glances away, shy, Elvis tilts the mic stand toward him, a subtle nudge to keep going. Midway through the song, Elvis slides one of his signature scarves from around his neck. He doesn't stop singing. He simply loops it over the boy's shoulders, letting it fall against the child's chest. The boy's lips curl into the smallest smile. It's the kind you don't plan. It just happens when you feel safe. They reach the final line. Elvis draws it out, letting the boy match his phrasing perfectly. On the last note, he holds the mic toward the child alone. Silence, then an eruption. The applause is a physical thing, a wall of sound slamming against the stage, rattling the rafters. People are on their feet, clapping above their heads. Elvis crouches beside the boy, one arm draped loosely over his shoulder. He leans in, speaking low, just for him. No one can quite make out the words, but whatever he says lands like lightning. The boy's face transforms, eyes widening, jaw slack for a split second before he breaks into a grin so wide it's visible even in the last row. The two walk slowly toward the wings. Elvis keeps a hand on the boy's back, shielding him from the outstretched hands of fans reaching for a touch. The band slides seamlessly into the next song, but the arena is still buzzing about what they just saw. A roadie at side stage shakes his head, muttering, "In all my years, never seen him do that." The boy clutches the scarf like a lifeline. He glances back at the empty spot on stage where they stood just minutes ago, eyes bright with something new. Backstage, Elvis waves off his handlers and walks straight toward him. Whatever happens next, it's not over. Not by a long shot. The stage door swings shut behind them, cutting off the roar of the crowd like someone pulled the plug on a giant amplifier. The hallway is cooler, quieter. Fluorescent lights hum overhead. Elvis still has his arm draped loosely over the boy's shoulders as they walk toward the small backstage lounge. A couple of handlers hover nearby, gesturing toward the exit. The limo is waiting, schedules to keep. Elvis doesn't break stride. "Give me a minute," he tells them, not looking back. They find a seat on a worn leather couch, the boy still holding the scarf like it might vanish if he lets go. Elvis asks about school, friends, what he likes to do when he's not listening to music. The boy hesitates before answering. Finally, in a voice so soft it almost disappears into the air, he says his parents died 2 years ago. Foster care ever since. Elvis leans back, the weight of the words settling in. He rubs a hand across his mouth, then looks directly at him. That's a lot for a young man to carry. A stagehand steps in, holding a Polaroid camera. Elvis waves him closer. "Let's get one," he says. He pulls the boy beside him, shoulder to shoulder. The flash pops, moment freezing in a rectangle of instant film. As the picture develops, Elvis reaches for a pen from the table. In quick, slanted handwriting, he scrawls across the bottom, "To my friend, Elvis." He hands it to the boy, who stares at it like it's made of gold leaf. Then Elvis leans forward, elbows on his knees. "I want you in the front row, any time you want. No ticket needed. You just get yourself there, and you're in." The foster parents are standing in the doorway, watching silently. One of them bites their lip, fighting the sting in their eyes. Elvis stands, smoothing the front of his jumpsuit. "You'll have to keep singing though, deal?" The boy nods so hard his cap almost slips off. From down the hall, someone calls Elvis, "Car's ready." He turns to go, then stops in the doorway, looks back. "I'll see you again," he says, pointing gently at the boy. "Count on it." The boy sits frozen on the couch, Polaroid in one hand, scarf wrapped tight around his shoulders. But what came a week later, nobody expected, not even the boy. 7 days later, the sound of tires crunching gravel pulls the boy to the front window. A battered delivery van idles at the curb, exhaust puffing in the cool morning air. The driver, a man in a faded ball cap, steps out with a long cardboard box balanced in his arms. The foster mother opens the door. "Package 4, the driver checks the label, your boy." The boy appears at her side, heart pounding. He's never had mail in his own name before. The driver grins. "Careful, it's not light." The box lands on the kitchen table. With a thud, it smells faintly of packing tape and cedar. The boy slices through the tape with a butter knife, the cardboard giving way with a dry crackle. Inside, wrapped in tissue paper, is a small acoustic guitar. The wood gleams honey gold in the sunlight spilling through the window. A faint whiff of polish drifts up as he lifts it out, cradling it the way he's seen musicians cradle instruments on TV, Across the strings, held in place with a strip of masking tape, is a folded note. He peels it free. The handwriting is unmistakable, bold, slanted, with flourishes in the capitals. You'll always have a seat in the front row. Elvis, the boy, runs his fingertips over the ink like he's making sure it's real. From the doorway, the foster father clears his throat, his voice rough. Guess he meant it. The boy sits, guitar on his lap, the scarf from that night still draped around his shoulders. He presses down on the first string, awkwardly strumming. The sound is clumsy, uneven, but to him it's perfect. Neighbors, curious about the van, drift toward the fence outside. One leans over and calls through the screen door, "What did you get there?" The boy doesn't answer, just keeps strumming, adjusting his fingers, determined to make the notes sound right. That night, he props the Polaroid against the lamp by his bed. The scarf hangs on the bedpost. The guitar rests in its cardboard box, not because he wants it hidden, but because he's decided nothing happens to it unless he's there. He falls asleep with the note on his chest. Years later, that same guitar will surface again, but in a place nobody expected. Decades later, the stage lights blaze again, but this time, they're not for Elvis. It's a summer evening in a small-town community center. Folding chairs fill the floor, the air carrying the mingled scents of popcorn and floor polish. On stage, a man in his 40s adjusts the strap of a well-worn acoustic guitar. The honey gold finish has dulled. The fretboard darkened where fingers have pressed the same chords thousands of times. If you look closely, you can still see the faint scratch where a boy once fumbled a pick. He strums a few warm-up chords, then leans toward the mic. "Before I start," he says, "I want to tell you about the night the king gave me my voice." The crowd chuckles softly at the line, but when he begins the story, 1976, Midwest, 7 years old, a scarf, and love me tender, the room grows still. People lean forward, faces lit by the warm wash of the stage lights. He plays the opening. Notes of love me tender, slower than Elvis did, but with the same care. Some in the audience close their eyes, mouthing the words. A woman in the second row squeezes her partner's hand as the last note fades. He smiles down at the guitar, running his hand along the worn wood. "This," he says, "came in the mail a week after that night, along with a promise I've kept close ever since." He starts another song, faster this time, tapping his boot in time. Kids in the front row sway to the rhythm. Then midstrum he stops, looks at the first row. There, almost directly in front of him, is a boy maybe 8 years old, sitting stiffly, hands folded, eyes wide in that mixture of awe and nerves the man remembers too well. He kneels, guitar resting against his thigh. "You play?" he asks quietly into the mic. The boy shrugs, too shy to speak. The man unhooks the strap from around his neck, holds the guitar out by the neck, like an offering. "Front row," he says with a grin. "Any time, no ticket." "Needed." Gasps ripple through the small crowd. The boy steps forward, hesitant, then takes the guitar in both hands. His face a mix of fear and joy. The man leans down, adds in a softer voice only a few nearby can hear, "And when you're ready, sing with me." Applause breaks out. Not the thunder of 18,000, but something just as real. A wave of warmth that fills the room. The boy walks back to his seat, clutching the guitar like treasure. The man watches him for a moment, then turns back to the microphone. "This," he says, "is how music lives forever." That night in '76 wasn't just a moment. It became a promise passed on from the king to a scared boy, from that boy to the next dreamer in line. If this moved you, share it with someone who believes kindness can stop a room. What's the smallest moment from your life that you'll remember forever?